It's 6 o'clock. I'm calling to order this regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Bandera. All council members are present with the exception of Christine Morse. It's April the 5th, 2022, and we're at 511 Main Street, Bandera, Texas. The city secretary is present and our marshal Will is present. Item 2 is the invocation and pledge. If you would rise, Marshal Will, would you please lead us in prayer?
Most gracious and loving Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us all together this evening, Lord. We pray that you get everyone back home again safe, Lord. Thank you for all your many blessings, especially this gorgeous day we've had. Lord, we'd ask please that you get us some rain, because we need it so very badly. Lord, thank you for all the many blessings, but mostly for your Son who died upon the cross for our many sins. Lord, help us be better today, but not as good as we're going to be tomorrow. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Item 3 is visitors to be heard. We have 2 folks signed up tonight. Patricia Moore, you're number 1 up here on the list.
Okay. I've handed out pieces of paper and put it on your desk. This coming Friday and Saturday, we will have the lower level of the library's meeting room opened. The American Astronomical Society is hosting a workshop for planning the solar eclipses 2023-24. It's an extensive agenda, so therefore, not everybody needs to stay all day. I will have it open. I will be there both days. You've got it, so if you want to come to some of it or not come to it. Either way, but there will be some other ideas that we'll learn, I'm sure, and new ideas. So, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it for tonight.
And Patricia,
Yes.
the times are Pacific Daylight Time?
Yes, so please note the times to be adjusted for our time zone should be Central Daylight Time.
That's a
For
typo.
example, time start as 9 to 11:30 Pacific Daylight Time translates to 11 a.m. to 1:30 p.m.
Our time.
our time. I was lazy. I didn't retype this and reformat the whole thing. Once you get used to it or pick out the ones you're interested in.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Dugash, Roy Dugash?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, council members and mayor. Just a heads up on the Heritage Park project. We lost our contractor. All of his workers left town, so it was one of those things. So I found another contractor, and like I was saying, you know, when you're one of the 16 settlers, I'm kin to everybody. So this is going to be my great nephew that I got the price from. But he's a good kid. And he's adamant about it, and he's out to do a good job for us. So I just give you kind of like a little overview. Way back there, we looked at, I've always had a dream of having the Walk of Champions, and we're talking cowboys and cowgirls. People who lived here in this town, who appreciated this town for what it is, the Cowboys, capital of the world, but had no recognition from it. This is my way of honoring them. And what we'll do is we're going to, in the field, we'll leave the first 6 or 8 rows, and it's in your packet, and then we'll use that space to put their names and what they were, world champion, cap roper, all-around cowboy, whatever. And honor some of the really super people that lived here, who owned land here, and were a part of the community at one time. Because they will never make it on the courthouse marker. The rules are too stringent. So anyway, we're going to do that, and we have some other ideas in there for doing away with the handicap. We're going to do away with the curves. We're going to do the granite straight down. We think that works better. I've got different opinions on it. I think that's going to work out very well. And then also try to utilize some more of the brick. There's a bed in front of the mural, and that's a beautiful mural that's on the building. And I just think that we need to have it to where it can be seen. If we have plants there, they tend to hide it. It's beautifully done. So my deal is, we got the brick, let's just put brick there. You know, it's not gonna cost us anything, and there's some organizations that are willing to do that for us for free. And so basically, the Walk of Champions, I've got a person who is willing to sponsor that, so that won't cost you anything. So these are some, I hope, some good ideas that y'all can agree with, and we can maybe work together and move forward on it. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, we'll see you on the 19th.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, that's all the visitors to be heard. All right, item 4 is the consent agenda. Item A is first reading of a resolution allocating $42,500 to the city of Bandera for half of the principal of the Texas Water Development Board loan for the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund. Item B, discussion of possible action on approving an ordinance amending the 2021-2022 budget, transferring $7,000 from 50-500-7510 Council Contingency Fund to 50-501-6550 Dallas Street Tank Repair for the emergency repair of the Dallas Street Well Ground Storage Tank. Rebecca?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Jerry?
Second that.
All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Item 5 is presentations. Council, with your agreement, I would like to move item B up before Mr. Johansen. Mr. Smith is here with us today, and he wants to do presentation by Dennis Smith of the traffic control plan for the Tour de France bicycle race. Mr. Smith,
Ma'am, thank you. Is it okay if I stay back here, or would you prefer?
you can come up here, you can stay right there, you can do whatever you want to do.
I project fairly well. so.
Oh, okay.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me, Madam Mayor, council people, councilmen, councilwomen, city staff, and citizens. My name is Dennis Smith. I am a volunteer advocate. I'm not an employee of the race, but I am a former cyclist, and I live in Helotes, and I couldn't think of anything that I would rather see than this Tour de France world-class cycling event coming through the southern hill country. And that's what started me going on this almost a year ago. So we were successful in getting the plan done the way we wanted, so we're coming through Bandera, going down through the lake country, through Old Town Helotes, and then back to UTSA. Yes, ma'am?
Rebecca?
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Could we please get our city marshal in here for this presentation? Oh, there he
He is
is.
here. I thought he was
Sorry,
back.
I paused to ask for you, so
The verdict process.
thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
Thank you. So, the race itself, what is it? It is an official event sponsored and run by the Tour de France, which is the largest spectator sporting event in the world. So to give you kind of a perspective on that, the Tour de France consists of 21 different stages, 21 days of racing. The name of the event is called Le Stage, which is one stage. So the concept behind the event is that it gives amateurs, non-professional cyclists, the opportunity to ride a stage that looks and feels very much like the Tour de France. So that's why the excitement here. There are 24 of these races around the world. This is the only one in the United States.
Jeez.
So that's, I'm trying to give you an idea. This is a world-class event, and it is just absolutely big time. This is going to be on national TV. Bandera, Helotes, Gray Forest, all of our little towns out here are all going to be on the Diaz for this event, and it's really exciting. Yes, sir, please.
I'm just curious, how did they pick this area?
Number one, the hills, because
okay.
the Tour de France is known for its climbing, for the hills of that. So of the 21 stages, 16 to 18 are usually a climbing stage of one sort or another. And they're brutal, I have to tell you. I get tired watching them. But these guys, this is what they do for a living. These are the top climbers in the world. And we're going to have one of them here, and he will be leading the race. His name is Alberto Contador. He's a 2-time Tour de France winner. Won the Tour d'Italy, Tour d'Espagne. So he's a very, very well-known spokesperson, ambassador for the event. And he will be leading the race off on Sunday morning. The race, by the way, is Sunday, April 10th. begins at the UTSA main campus at 7 a.m. We go come up Babcock Road, across 47, basically I'll shortcut this, across 47, back to 16, up through Bandera City, out into the Lake Country, back across 211 to 16, down through Helotes, U-turning, and then back to Scenic Loop through Gray Forest and back to UTSA main campus. 100 miles and a 60. Yes, sir.
You mentioned maybe 2,500 cyclists.
That's the total, yes. Right now, we're sitting at about 2,400 registered.
Would you expect that many to be passing through here?
We anticipate somewhere between 11 and 1,200. actually
Still a
coming
huge
through
number.
here. Yeah.
How long does it take for that number of cyclists to pass through?
We'll see the first riders coming through Bandera, probably 10:30. Yeah, somewhere around that 3.5 hours.
But how long does it take that many cyclists to come through? You know what I mean? As
The
a group?
leaders, yeah.
Is it a 5-minute thing you'll see them, or 10, or a
It's gonna
half?
be, by the time they get to Bandera, it's gonna be spread out. It will be probably literally miles of cyclists in
That's why I was
small
wondering.
groups and singles. And so it'll be the type of situation where the traffic management is done similar to like a 5K or a parade or anything else. So the roads are gonna remain open, but they will be managed so that we have police officers off duty for the most part. Do you have any of your folks that were signed up on this?
I have at least one. I put the, a traffic contractor that does it for TxDOT is handling all of it, and at least one of my guys is already signed up. I don't know how many of the rest of them. He's informed me that he signed up, and the sheriff's office as well is signing up through him to coordinate the off-duty work for the lane closures kind of stuff.
So the preference is to use the local law enforcement because they're familiar with the area. They know the area, they know the people. So that's the preference. So that, they're the first ones that are given the opportunity to sign up. Once those positions are covered and we don't have any more local, then we start hiring it. And I don't say we, because this is a contractor, one of the largest in the state. And then he starts bringing in officers from further and further out until we have all the police coverage that we need.
And council, they're not coming down Main Street. They're hitting going out 173 toward Hondo.
Oh, yes, thank you. Yeah, good point. So they'll be coming up 16,
Okay.
make the left turn on 173 on Main Street there, and then into the park. The park actually is going to have a rest stop with medical support, food trucks, water station, general check over, and of course biological breaks as well. So all of that will be there at the park. The early stages, the first ones we see coming through are going to be the real serious riders, and they will not be stopping, period. They'll grab a water bottle and they'll keep riding because they're trying to make time. Those folks are really competitive and they are in an actual race. The vast majority of the folks are just out there having a good time. Yes,
We have feeding stations.
yes, all through. There are, the one that's most appropriate for you will be at the park. Right there, yes. Yes,
Rebecca.
ma'am?
You had a representative at Commissioner's Court. I don't
Correct.
remember if it was last week or the week before. I can't remember, but I was there.
Oh,
And so I don't know if you had had the opportunity to answer some of the questions that came up at Commissioner's Court. They had requested a comprehensive plan, a real route map, because now, once they take a left on 173, there's two options, because
Right.
some will take, like, either Bottle Springs Road or Whartonstock to Rodeo Road to
Whartonstock.
English
Whartonstock,
Crossing.
Yes.
So really strategically, where traffic control is going to be, where you will have officers stationed,
Right.
and then safety concerns along that route as well. I think those were kind of the main.
So it was a manual that is, it really is a very comprehensive manual about how all of these things were done. And unfortunately, some of the pieces were presented without all of the pieces. So what I did right after that meeting is I drove up and met with Judge Evans and Sheriff Butts, thank you, and presented them with a full manual so that they could see every bit of it, including the emergency services aspect of it, which is a big concern, how are our hired contractors going to interface and interact with the Bandera City and the Bandera County EMS folks? So that was all in the manual. The medical support, the ambulance support, all emergency services are coordinated. This is the standard kind of a template that we used that's actually developed by University Health System. So it's a very, very comprehensive, covers. I read it and I was really impressed.
Will, do you have questions or concerns?
No, ma'am, we've
Did you,
had several
well,
meetings.
No. I was trying to see if Suzanne saw your hand up before you spoke out.
Oh,
in a meeting.
okay. Yes,
Maybe
ma'am?
I misunderstood. Did you say this would be on a Sunday?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean,
We don't have any choice in that.
that's not very wide highways and places.
I know it.
It's a church morning, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it was a concern, and we had to look at that very closely. Unfortunately, we didn't have a choice, because, and I haven't mentioned this and I apologize, this is an official Fiesta event also. So it has to go on the last day of Fiesta. That's what they told us. So there was no option in, oh, let's move it to a week earlier or 2 weeks later so we miss Easter or something. That was not an option that was given. So it was do it on the 10th, period. So that did not give us the option. So then we had to really work on the traffic plan, realizing that we have churches, we have church members that are traveling in and out, and that's why we are staffed. We have barricades, signage going to be up. You'll start to see the signage actually by tomorrow. You'll start to see signage along the route. They'll be bringing in, we'll be out at 6 o'clock in the morning, or actually we start, the barricades people start at about 7 o'clock Saturday night, and they work through the night putting up barricades and additional signage, making sure that all the roads are as safe as they can possibly be. I mean, it's like any other event. You can try to make them 100% safe, but it's just, people are people. They don't always follow the signs. So we do the best we can, and of course, a lot of live volunteers as well as law enforcement along the, especially in those areas down there, down in the lake area.
Thank you. Further questions? Council?
I assume there's a facility use agreement for the park already done?
This is the first I've heard about it.
Because we have an entry fee at our city park, and so use of the park needs to be coordinated through the city.
And I have not been involved with that, so that
You
would
see,
be.
Will?
Will?
That somewhat is my fault, because he had reached out to me about that, and that was right when David was out with his father. And I told him that would be a city administrator / city council thing. And then, everything that took place between
Sure.
that with his father and then him leaving us, so it's kind of left us in limbo on that. So I will have to eat some crow on that. We never got back to, got a chance to get back with David as far as the call. They had requested, they initially were going to use the Bandera Brewery as their rest stopping point.
Right.
And that was a huge safety concern, because they would actually be going across the highway and then back across the highway again.
So you're telling me that we're gonna have food trucks and folks and all kinds of stuff in the park this weekend? Are we gonna have the park open this weekend?
This would be the first weekend we should have the park open, but that's another topic, so, we're gonna try. But I would say that something would have to be worked out with them.
I mean,
for
normally
that
we
end of
have-
The park, the park isn't gonna be that busy on this
Normally we have
weekend.
vendor
Next weekend's
permits
the
and that sort of
biggest.
thing for this.
We can probably still work with this. I was dealing with this, to be frank, which is why you had a different gentleman that gave the presentation at the county, for the county commissioners. So I'm kind of just getting back in the saddle on a few of these things that I missed in the process here, including that. I knew that the park, that David and our gentleman by the name of Aaron Nelson, who you saw at Commissioner's Court, They had the discussion, I know Marshall Dietrich was involved with that as well to some extent, but I don't know what the final disposition is of this. That's where I would leave it. I think we can talk about that for certain. Yes, ma'am.
Darcy?
I'm gonna be quite frank, cause that's who I am anyways, not frank, but open and honest. I'm not happy with the fact that we're just hearing about this, and it's been going on for a year, and it's coming through the city. We've had no way to plan or coordinate or let our citizens know anything. Now the park is gonna be used, even if, you know, something was said when David's father was in the hospital, that was just a month or 6 weeks ago. That wasn't nearly enough time to try to get stuff started. This is gonna happen in 5 days. What are we supposed to tell our citizens now in 5 days? We weren't considered in any discussions. This is the first time I've heard about it, unless this happened in the one meeting that I've missed in the year and a half I've been on council. I'm not happy about that. I'm excited that it's gonna be televised. Hey, that's great. You know, Bandera may be a blip on the news. That's fantastic. But this isn't how you run an event like this, whether it's you or it's somebody else. You've got to come to cities like this, and I hope it's been different in Helotes and other places. But, I mean, you can't come to a city 5 days prior and expect us to be excited and say, hey, welcome aboard and please use our park, and give us 5 days notice to let the public know. That's not adequate, and to me it's not okay.
I understand completely, I do, and I don't disagree. In fairness and in response to that, on multiple occasions, I'd scheduled with David to come and address the city council. As I'm gonna say in February maybe January or February, I think was some of our first meetings. And so we have been working. Well, I think the first meeting with you, Patricia, was around that same time, and that was January. So we were up here meeting with city officials with the intent of meeting with city council.
Well, I'll apologize if that's not on you. If that's on the city, then we'll handle that, and I apologize if that's not on you.
Yeah, it's not just a matter of blame either. This is a brand new event for
Right.
everybody, including me. And I said to people, I used to race, so I was on the front end of these kind of things. I have never been on the back end. So it's been a learning experience for me too. So I'll take responsibility for just not knowing as much as maybe I should have. That's been fun, but we've made some mistakes along the way too. So,
Sure.
yeah.
Rebecca had her hand up for quite a while, folks.
I just wonder if it would be possible to go ahead and print a facility use agreement for Mr. Smith before he leaves that he could take with. You might even
Sure.
be able to fill it out and complete it. But and if I'm not mistaken, we left facility use as an administrative authority. So unless there's something that the event is asking for council approval, it doesn't need to come back to council. It can be.
Well, I understand that. My concern is, and I'll just take a consensus here at council because we're, again, in a presentation format. You know, we normally have vendor permits, the food trucks need to be state certified, there's certain health precautions that we need to take. I would want those food vendors to have that sort of record here at the city. Insurance would be required. I can certainly see where we would waive any sort of fee involved, but there are certain routine things that we require, and here we are 5 days before the event.
This is catering, if I'm not mistaken.
Ma'am?
I think it's being catered, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
it is. And that's all being contracted out by the organizers. And again, this is part of Fiesta. It's part of the San Antonio Sports Organization, who are used to doing these things. So we're using many of their vendors to accomplish this. So I know for a fact that we have significant insurance coverage of our own, in addition to coverage from Fiesta and coverage from San Antonio Sports Organization. So that I know is covered. And who actually does some of those things, I didn't deal with it personally, but I can certainly get the information for you if you need it.
You said catered. I heard food trucks earlier. I apologize. Tony?
Yeah, that was one of the clarifications I was gonna make, because that's what it said. It sounds like this is just food provided for the riders, for the people in the event, not something that they're gonna be making money on. A couple of things. Our Main Street is, I mean, we have a lot of traffic on it, and it backs up, and the bridge is the only way to get across the river. And so at peak time, I mean, it's gotten to the point where unless you're driving in the middle of the night, there's traffic backed up at the light, and that's the light that y'all are gonna be using. And I've known about this quite some time because Patricia had let me know when she was notified about it. And it's very exciting. I mean, it's a really awesome event, and I think it would be fun for people to, you know, us to kind of treat it like an event, like a parade or something, sort of. But it is a dangerous route. I mean, on a daily basis, on a clear day we've had no rain for how long now, and we have rollovers on that road because it is not treated with respect on the road between us and 1283 on the route that you're taking. So I would hope that, and there's curves and winds, and that's a great thing for for bicyclists. I mean, I know how fun it is, but it you know, the minute I heard about it, I was like, say your prayers, because it's just, I mean, it's a tedious little road, and
Information needs to be pushed.
not to mention potholes, and it's not exactly a very well maintained road either. But yeah, so hopefully the traffic control knows that they've traveled it, they're aware of it, and there's a lot of people on there, and I wish all the best of luck, and y'all are in my prayers.
Well, the good news is we have ambulances following.
Right.
And also bicycle repair. So
Yeah.
we have mobile repair vans that are
Yeah.
following.
But it is constricted to one
Yes.
way, right? I mean, so the oncoming traffic, it's just everybody stays in their lane, moving one way.
Yeah, when I was speaking with Judge Evans, we were just talking about the bridge. And he said, well, technically, it's a 2-lane bridge. And I said, not with my expedition, it's not.
Right. It is a
It is,
2-lane
it is,
bridge.
technically.
And with my F-150 it is too, but the people coming toward me have waved at me with one finger many times saying
Right.
that it's not. So it is a 2-way bridge.
Yeah.
And 2 people can fit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Smith, could you please provide our city secretary with a contact for whoever does have the authority to sign a facility use agreement and to provide a certificate of insurance with the city named as a secondary insured,
Absolutely.
so that we can deal with that tomorrow as quickly as possible?
Oh, I'm sorry. I had one other question I forgot to ask.
Sure.
Was I thought we started charging April for Easter.
This
And
is April, this is the weekend
I
before
meant
Easter.
Easter is the following weekend.
We've always opened the weekend before Easter so we can kind of get a handle on the problems
Okay.
before the big Easter rush.
Okay, that's my bad. I thought it was Easter. So, okay.
It's a practice trial run the
Just-
weekend before Easter.
Just checking that, so all of the vendors at the park, they're not selling anything.
No, they're there to provide
Just
food
provide.
and
Okay.
energy,
So it is
gels,
catering.
that sort of thing, yeah.
Okay, so we don't have to worry about permits.
No,
it
but I
sounds
just don't want
like.
to set a precedent that we're gonna have to come back later and, well, they let so-and-so in there,
Mm-hmm.
so, and that's
So,
just all.
well, it's catering, it's not selling. Yeah.
I understand,
We're probably thinking the same.
Darcy.
I would think that, and he said that it would be easy for him to get that information, so I don't think it would be hard for them to get you everything that you need, the health stuff and
We're
all of
gonna
that.
actually get a better handle on actually what is going to be in there, then I think we'll know how to proceed from there.
That was what I was gonna ask. But if Will has any idea of what's actually in there, would they be able to be up by the flagpole area where the restrooms are and that kind of block that off?
Yeah, that was what I was envisioning. I can't remember if it was just you I talked to, or if it was Aaron too. There's been so much going on.
You and I and Mark met the one time and talked about using not going all the way down to 8th Street, the 8th Street gate, to use the gate.
Between 11th and 8th.
Yeah, exactly, get up to a little closer, not have to go quite as far down that road to get in, and then back out the same way,
We don't open that
so
gate on the
that
weekend.
we minimize crossover.
Well, we will
on
just
the
for them.
roads.
Right.
It'll be
And most
just for
everything
them.
is part, and it's a package. In
They
fact,
need
the
to
first thing I'll
manage.
send you And if you need me to send them to anybody else, we've got that complete operational manual.
They
And it
need
goes
to
through
man it.
everything. It really covers that, covers what's gonna be in the rest areas, in those stopover points and watering stations. It differentiates between just a watering station and what is an actual rest stop. So the park is an actual rest stop.
And so, to follow up that question is, so you've seen that area that's up
Uh-huh.
by, okay, and you think that that's sufficient area enough?
Long before the race,
Okay, well, no, I know, but to have the
Yeah.
caterers and, okay.
yes.
Is there gonna be like a restroom truck there? Y'all just gonna be using our facilities, or?
I believe that they're gonna be porta potties. That is one of the biggest expenses for all of these, because there'll be porta potties everywhere at all of the rest stops and all of the water stations.
Okay, alright, thank you.
That's another thing we'll need to clarify tomorrow.
Well,
That I think is in the operational manual.
well,
You'll find that a lot of this is already in that manual, and it covers contact points. And those things that I can't do, I can interface for you. So that's
And this
your-
manual is,
He's gonna email it
I'm
to
gonna
me
email it.
tomorrow and I'm gonna share it with you
Yeah.
guys.
Thank you.
Will,
In Mr. Smith's defense, his first email to me was on the 14th of January, which I promptly forwarded to David, city administrator, and then we had our first meeting on the 24th of January. So it has been in the works for a minute. Granted, this is probably a 8 or 10, 12 month planning kind of thing, so I do tend to agree. But he hasn't actually showed up 5 days ahead of time. I don't know why there hasn't been more discussion. But I went up my chain of command to the one I needed to go, that I'm supposed to go to. I don't know why it wasn't brought to you up. But please don't take it out on him, because he's been super nice, super friendly, and
We've been having a great time.
No.
we'll
It's gonna be a great event, but it also, to be a great event, it takes planning.
It does,
I
and,
mean-
and I was about to say that, this event takes place on the 10th of April. We all decided we're taking the 11th off, but planning for next year starts on the 12th. This is a 3-year contract with
Oh, wow.
the city and with Fiesta, with a 2-year extension, so we'll be
You
coming,
got that down?
and hopefully this route, if it works out as well as we hope, if it works out the way we hope, this will be the same route that we'll use for the next 3 years and into the extension period.
Billy, you had your hand up?
How are you gonna notify the city residents that this is fixing to happen? Because 90% of them don't read the paper.
Go to your
Okay.
our
You-
Facebook,
I'm sorry, but
the
it's
social
true.
medias.
no.
Mhm. Go ahead, Rebecca.
I just wonder what you would suggest, Rilla, because if it's in the paper, it's on the city website, people are talking, I mean, I knew about it
You
from
seem to
commission.
have the answers, you suggest something.
No, ma'am, I'm asking you what you think, you know, if you have a suggestion, that's all.
Do you have one?
I just want to say, I was working for a corporation. I did 3 world triathlons in France. I was the French company. We did the French Alps, the French Riviera, and we did the interior French, 1-week triathlons. And it was great. I just am excited that Bandera was chosen for this. It's a great opportunity. And I appreciate the fact that y'all are trying to work out the logistics. That's what they are. This is just awesome. You know, because I've been there, done that. Man, this gives me goosebumps.
Tony?
You was just talking about Cape Meat goosebumps. I've been so excited about this ever since I found out about it.
I don't know
My poor wife
exactly.
has been living with this.
I don't know exactly what the event is, but there is a major bicyclist event that goes through Center Point. And they have signs up for like a month in advance, and this is for next year. I mean, I know we can't do it this year, but they have like a month in advance. They have signs with the logo that gives the date, that talks about the number of bicyclers expected, the amount, the time frame that they're going to be passing through that area. So it gives people an idea of, consciously making a decision
Right.
to come out and watch or stay off the roads or whatever. So it could be that we could do something like that, maybe on, Friday or Saturday or, something, or maybe contact Hebner's, put it on their Blinky sign, or Hondo National Bank has a sign. Hebner's was the first one I thought of, as people coming in on 16 all the time. But, again, five days out, I mean, I don't see any of these people saying no, it's just a matter of getting them the information
Sure.
so that they have the date and the time frame that they're expected to have bicycle, you know, like you said, about 10:30 in the morning, and then till,
I would say about 10:30. If they're not making the turn at 46 and 16 at 1:30, then they will be diverted south to Colotus.
gotcha.
And it's over at 4 o'clock. Anybody that's on the road will be removed from the race.
Yeah, and then maybe on that notification or something, provide a website so that they can see the actual route. For a route, go to this website, and then, you know, anything we can do to.
And I actually brought some materials, if you'd like to see some of these things. I've got a handout that has all of the different routes.
I
for
printed
the
it.
different
Yeah, we have them in our packet.
okay,
Yeah,
all
the
right,
the 116, yeah, 25 and 10. Yeah, thank you.
I kind of want to ditto what Will said. Yes, the city was addressed, our office had been addressed, but this is a first-time event. I know that they have struggled getting everything put together. Tony's ideas of timing, that's where I want to jump in. You're saying they will start coming through in Bandera around 10:30.
Yes.
But you need to back up about 20 miles or more when they get into Bandera County.
Right.
So you start, what time do you?
I don't
get
know of any
first?
blinky signs at the Bandera County line.
No,
Heaveners
I don't
was the
either.
first one that
But
I
you know
came
what
up
I'm
with.
kind of saying. What
Yeah.
time do you anticipate them
For the
coming off
time.
of 46?
For the
And-
time.
Yeah, for next year, maybe,
Right,
with the
yeah, right.
signage.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, this is gonna be a learning experience, and
For all
we
of
can
us.
certainly meet shortly after this, before it all goes away, and have
April
some
12th, I think.
constructive conversation.
And,
Dorothy?
and just quickly piggybacking off of what Tony said, because I grew up in Center Point, from Center Point, my family lives in Center Point. It is a huge asset having those signs. It does make a difference to have those signs out, letting people know when. For me, it was to avoid the roads because,
Right.
like ours here, they're very small, and you know you don't want to hit a cycler. So, we definitely would want signs and notification to everybody that this is going to happen.
What you'll
So.
see in that organizational manual that I'm gonna send to Jill is, it will have a complete list of all the signs, where they're gonna be located. And this is an entire 2 or 3 page listing of where all the signs are going to be.
Are they going to go out on Friday, or are they going out the day before the
They're
event?
going out on Saturday, well, some of them are actually going out tomorrow. They start
Okay,
on
all
some
right.
of the roads that look like.
Earlier the
visible,
better.
Yeah.
Like 46 and Upper Balcones, and I think out in the lake area. We're gonna start to see signs, you'll see them on
Good.
the highway, they'll be mounted. And then there's also a chart there for all police locations. So that there's 60-some police officers that are assigned to places around the course, plus volunteers, and hundreds of volunteers.
Okay, last
Thank you
questions
very
or
much.
comments? All right, Mr. Smith,
Thank
we'll
you,
get
Mr.
this
Smith.
Thank
rolling.
you all
Let's see
very
what
much, I
happens.
appreciate it, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank
To work
you.
with you in the future, starting the April 12th.
All right, thank you. All right, item A, the presentation by Bruce Johansen on the salary survey, and that would be, yes, you're here? Hi. Oh, the camera's over there. Hi.
Do you
have
have
the remote tool? Hang on one second, we're gonna, try to, oh, I got it. Which one were we using for volume?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. That one.
Hope it doesn't fall.
Yes, we can hear
A
you.
lot more noise than trust me.
Yeah, right.
Okay, good. Do you want, if you want, I think you've got the packet in front of you, and then I think if we can switch the screen to me, I can probably show you my screen.
Can you
the
let him
side-
screen
side
share?
of my face. Can we do that? Let's see.
Working on it.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
Yes,
So
we
can you
can see it.
the
Yes,
city of Bandera, Texas?
yes.
Excellent, okay, good. Well, what I'm gonna do, you've got, as I said, you've got the packet in front of you, but I'm gonna walk you through each of the documents. We're gonna start with Exhibit 1, which is past the summary pages. That's about 4 or 5 pages in. And I'm gonna walk you through the whole process, and then feel free to ask questions as we go. And then I'll end up with some recommendations. We started out with your job descriptions, which were sent to us, and once we had those, we enter them in our system here, and then we have what's called a 15-factor job evaluation process that we use with all of our city, county, and other clients, public, private. It's a program that we created that what it does is it dissects the job description, looks at things like education, experience, it looks at budgets, and what it's doing is it's looking at the requirements of the job, and then it comes up with an overall point total. So there's proprietary points around each of the degrees that you see there. And we start with the city administrator up there at the top, and then the overall points, again, proprietary points based on the degrees, and there's different weightings for each of them. But what you see there is 2406 all the way down to the utility clerk at 401. So what this does is it creates an internal value based on the job description and requirements of the job, not the person in the job, but just the job itself. So that was our first step. Once we did that, then we move on to what's called the Interactive Scattergram. And what you see here, it's taken the annual salary and the rating points and it plots it on a graph. And so what you'll see here is, for example, if I put the cursor there, that's the marshal right there. And then down here is the Public Works Director. So each dot represents an employee. And we're running what's called a regression line. It's using the rating points for the position and the annual salary. And our philosophy is if someone's close to the pay line, then that's what we call internal equity. The further away, either above the line or below the line, is inequity. And so you'll see that later on when we look at the other exhibits, where we've got some that are below and some that are above, as well as we have some that are really close to the line that you see here. So what that does is that kind of gives us an internal picture of what we look like as a city. Then the next thing we do is we go out into the marketplace and we pull market data. Go ahead, does someone have a question?
No, sorry, I was clearing my throat.
Okay, no problem. So the next thing we do is we pull market data, and you'll see this in Exhibit 3, and you'll see Blanco, Bandera, Burnett, and Castroville are the first four. And then what we're doing is we used a couple different surveys that we were able to access, and Blanco had created a survey of various cities. We used that, and also the city secretary had a survey that was recently completed. So we were able to pull the data from those different surveys. And what we did is we used the 50th percentile in or actual, whichever was provided. And that's what you see here. For example, city administrator, you'll see the current salary, and then you'll see the annual salaries here for the first four cities. And then you'll see that for each of the different positions. And then you'll see an overall variance of 21.1%, 24.2%, 35.4%, and 8.9% for Castroville. With all of the surveys, we're about 21% behind market as a group. And so that's the first four. And then the next four is this Part B, which is going to be your 3B in your packet. And that's going to be Comp Analyst Government Bandera. We subscribe to employer-based data with that survey and then less than 25 employees. It cost index it down to the zip code, so we're able to use Bandera, government, and then Comp Analyst is the survey. And then Department of Labor, that is the W-2 data for the High Country Metropolitan Statistical Area. So that's your area around Bandera that's reported to the government. So those two surveys give us some non-city data that we're able to use. And then Garden Ridge, and then That was there that you see. And then 24.2, 18.4, 19.1, and 14.6. Again, the overall with all of them is roughly 21%. Then the last grouping is the Part C, which is your Exhibit 3C. And what you're going to see here is you're going to see the Hondo, Marble Falls, and then the San Antonio 10 suburban cities. And so Hondo is 23.9%, Marble Falls 19.3%, and then the 10 suburb cities. I thought what I'd do is I'll read those off to you just so that you'll know. But it's Alamo Heights, Lacone, about Lacone Heights, Castle Hills, High Country Village, Kirby, Leon Valley, Ramos Park, Selma, Savannah Park, and Terrell Hills. And so most of those are population closer to Bandera population. And they're suburbs, you know.
Mr. Johansen, hang on, could I ask a question? This is the mayor. Okay, none of these are even close to our population. Our population is fewer than 900. Do we have a comparison anywhere of cities with a budget of less than $3 million? Because that's what we're working with.
Yeah, I looked at all the cities around Bandera, and they're just not a lot of cities that, you know, they're either really tiny or they get, you know, they're in this grouping. And also this is kind of your trade area. So I was trying to use cities that where they would recruit from. That is, you're in a trade area where you potentially could lose personnel to these different cities.
Jerry, hang on, we have a councilman question. Go ahead, Jerry.
That was an exact statement I was gonna make. These are not even close to comparison to our city's economy, and to me, they're useless. Just to be
I'm
blunt.
sorry to hear that. I covered these with David, the city administrator.
Well, he didn't cover them with us.
Rebecca
That's
has
why
the
you're here
question.
for.
You got the green light to go ahead, so I sat down with him. I mean, we went over these before I pulled data.
Just a minute, please. Rebecca has a question. This is Rebecca, the Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, I just wanted to comment, I understand the relevance in, these are the entities in our surrounding area that we're competing with employees for, essentially.
Yes.
So that's if you're talking about recruitment and retention, which are valuable conversations, that is one thing, but it doesn't exactly give us a great sense of, for the people who are living in Bandera, who may be qualified for these positions, that compared to other jobs in Bandera, that these wouldn't be really well-paying jobs. And I don't know that, I'm sure that wasn't what was asked of you. This is, pretty precisely what council had asked the city administrator for. What's frustrating is that there's not anything in our immediate area that really compares, like you said. So I just don't know where we're gonna really take this.
Well, all I can say is I covered this with David.
Sure.
I mentioned to him that, what about some of the smaller cities? And he said that, they're so small that they're not gonna be relevant from a recruitment and retention. And so that's why we selected what we selected.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I spoke with David about this, and I reviewed it, and I looked at it, and I had the same comment that I just made about, the size of the city and our budget. And he said that you had some sort of
Like a formula?
formula, an algorithm that could kind of bring it down to our level. Is this something that you can share with us, or is this something that we're not gonna be able to see?
Well, I did not talk with him about that. now the only thing I can say is that the way we could do this would be to look at their budgets of these different cities and contrast the budget compared to Bandera's budget, and then we could proportionally take it down, to a percentage that, would be closer to Bandera.
Darcy has a question. Darcy Hasty?
I've got a question, sir. So,
Go ahead.
and let me know if I'm reading your charts wrong here, but if you look at the Bandera one and you look at Hondo, which I take particular interest in, you look at those two together.
Can you explain exactly, sorry, which pages you're looking at?
If you look at page 19 and page 20,
Okay.
so the Hondo and the Bandera, so when you look at the present day pay rate, they're all exactly the same. And unless I'm reading it wrong, I have a hard time believing that Hondo and Bandera pay exactly to the dollar the same thing for the same employees.
Bandera.
The CA Gov Bandera under 25 employees.
That was a statistic.
Well, the present pay rate is your rates, and then under each of the cities, under the pay rate mean, that's coming from each of the cities or surveys.
Oh, okay.
So that's how that's there.
So that's how you're getting your percentage.
Right.
Yeah, so this number here stays the same, because that's your employee rate.
Okay, okay,
Salaries.
thank you.
And then these each are the different cities or surveys. And then it's comparing the annual salary against the dollar annual salary in each of the cities or surveys, and then providing a dollar variance and a percentage variance. And then it provides an overall variance here. And I'm happy. I mean, I'd be happy to try to get the budgets of the different cities that we looked at and compare that with Bandera and see if we can come up with something that's appropriate. It's just that I really did cover this with David and said, hey, these are bigger cities, what are we gonna do?
That's okay, we're gonna move forward.
Okay, Tony has a question, and let's get off the previous conversation, please.
Mr.
Okay.
Johansen, I just wrote a few notes. This is something we've struggled with for years. To find the right qualified and educated and certified employee to work in our little town when we do have a lot of larger towns around us that we are truly competing against for the same employees. So finding an equivalent city, if we want to do apples to apples, and we needed to factor in population, number of utility accounts, all of those factor in what we do on a day-to-day basis and how busy we are, in addition to the amount of budget that we have to maintain that. But to me, what we actually do on a day-to-day basis in this one little square mile that we call the city of Bandera, we sustain a lot compared to what we are as far as what property taxes we take in and our budget, because we have a bigger rural area around us. We're the only major city in our entire county, and there's nothing really close to us to the west of us. Everything's to the east of us. So population and number of utility accounts, in addition to the amount of budget, would help find an equivalent city. But also, in addition to that, when we're talking about compensation, are you taking in the whole entire total compensation, not just pay? Are you taking in like the fact that we pay 100% of health care for our employees, and there's other benefits that they get that's in that total compensation package? And then obviously Rebecca Gibson had mentioned, recruitment and retention, and we are competing because we are so close to bigger cities. So we're competing for the same personnel. And even if we are, to tag on what Councilman Rebecca Gibson said, was that even though we may be trying to recruit people local, there is a very specific education level and skill level amongst it. So there aren't that many other jobs within our city or our county that require the same education and skill level and certification level. So that population would be probably a little smaller than just, because like I think was mentioned was that other jobs, this is a very well-paid job here, but we're also looking for a very specific person to fill the spot, and there's not that many in our area. So that's where your recruitment and retention would come in. But I agree with you. I mean, it's considered a very well-paid job. But I think there's so many factors above and beyond what you've listed here that really, truly compares apples to apples. And I just listed a few. I hope I made sense. Thank you.
You made sense, and we were asked just to look at base and not benefits, but you're right, benefits does enter into the equation, and so the way you'd have to look at that is you'd have to look at your benefit offerings compared to, outside groups and see if you're plus or minus, and if you're plus, then, as the mayor said, that you could pull, in a way, an algorithm, or you could pull a subtraction of a percentage down, for if we're paying, a higher amount on benefits than other groups. So let me just show you a couple other things, and then I will show you a schedule where we can talk about the difference. But this right here is the city of Bandera's line here, and then this is the survey line here. So what would happen over time is your budget allows for it, and as you would be increasing the salaries and mainly your mid-level to upper level positions, moving them up will steepen the line to get it more in line with the other groups that we were comparing against. And then another way to look at that is to let me just show you this, and then I'll show you the employee schedule. But sorry. But what we're trying to do here is just say, okay, here's where we are. Here's the minimum range of the work towards. Here's our new midpoint. So this is moving the line up by that 20% here, and then that's the maximum. And then from an employee standpoint, and you've got your packet of information with the employee information. So maybe it might be good just to look at that instead of unless go ahead.
Tony?
So when we talked about this a couple years ago, Suzanne, we talked about, what is the right amount of money of your percent, like when I do a household budget, there's somebody that says you should never pay more than 50% for your cost of rent and utilities, like your flat overhead, the things that you have, and that should never go over 50%. So there's like a pie that you shoot for, right? So it doesn't matter what your budget is, you just apply that percentage and you say, okay, this is what we should pay on our security, this is what we should pay in overhead in the office or whatever. Mr. Johansen, is there a percentage of budget that's recommended on what we should spend? Because that would kind of bring us back down to comparing apples to apples. If there's some sort of rule of thumb out there that says we should spend so much money on our office staff, so much money on our Department of Public Works, percentage of budget.
Yeah, I mean, the most obvious one is your benefit cost. That's typically going to be anywhere from about 20 to 35% of your payroll. So that one kind of is pretty common out there. When you add base, when you add base and benefits, it's going to be, especially in a smaller city where you're not spreading the cost. It's going to be a higher percentage, like you said. It's going to be in that.
Yeah, I'm looking for a bigger picture. I'm looking for, we have a number of utility accounts. We have a set number of income that we get off those utility accounts. How much of the percentage of that should we be spending on personnel? How much should we have in the reserve? How much should be on maintenance? How much should, it's like a household income. Like, what's the percentage for a municipality? What's a typical?
Yeah, I don't know that. And the reason why I don't is because it varies so much from city to city. Some cities have utilities, some don't. You know, so it's gonna vary. What I do think is probably your Texas municipal group would have that. They would probably already have that printed somewhere. So I'd tap either into the Texas municipal group, and because my thinking is they would already have that by different city types around the state, as well as those who have utilities and those who don't.
Okay, may I please, to answer your question, Tony? When I first got involved in budget many years ago, I was appalled at the percentage of the budget that the city was spending on salaries and payroll expenses. That is, all of those things, insurance, and I'm like, holy moly, we're spending nearly half of our budget on employee associated expenses. I asked that question, the same question you did, and I was told that by our auditor at the time when I was going back, he said 75% is a normal city's budget for employees and employee-related expenses. I find that extremely high. But if you look at our whole budget from one end to the other, about 1.5 million, we're at about 50% of our budget right now is employee and payroll expenses, related expenses.
I think 50%, I would say 50 to 60 or 65 would be what I would expect. Because, I mean, they're the ones that do it. We're not automated. We don't have big computer systems to read meters. Everything we do is manual. Our budget is manual, all of our oversight is manual, our scheduling is manual, our payroll is manual. I mean, everything is manual. We enter timesheets manually. So because of that, we are still a paper system. And I would expect it to be higher. But
well, I think when it comes to budget versus percentage, we're right there. Now, our overall budget versus, say, Garden Ridge or Hondo, there's no comparison whatsoever. So,
no, but we're competing. And this is really helpful information in that it gives me an idea of what we're competing against, because they are not very far down the road.
Mm-hmm.
We are. Okay, you just put your hand up right. I was talking to Suzanne.
Jerry, could I?
Okay.
Okay, you put your hand up, and I can't see Suzanne.
Well, I
All right,
apologize.
no, you didn't. So.
Okay, Tony.
A big deal.
It's fine.
Jeez, always
Well,
looking.
Jerry had his hand up. Hold on. Jerry.
That's all
Okay,
right.
sorry.
Okay, go ahead. Never mind.
Well, I was just gonna say that 60-65%, that is kind of fairly common, but again, since we work with a lot of cities that some get to have, utilities, some don't, it's third party. So it's gonna really truly vary. But one of the things that I did mention to David is that, and maybe this is what you were talking about from an algorithm standpoint, you can see that you've got most of your employees that are under the 80%. So here's the market midpoint. This is adjusted with market. So this is moving the pay line up by that 21%. So if we were to pay everybody to market, this is where we would bring them to. As you know, most everybody is sitting either below minimum or second. And so understandably with your budget, then we've got quite a few of our employees sitting down in here. And so over time, and based on your budget, what you're gonna want to try to do is move towards this market midpoint as you can. And even in my recommendations, I didn't say, oh yeah, go increase your budget by 21%. I kind of said, break it up in 2 years. But maybe it's gonna be 3 or 4 or 5 years to do that. I realize that this market midpoint is gonna be moving, year to year. And a lot of times when we set structure, we'll set structure for maybe 2 or 3 years, but at the most, especially with the market moving today, you can't sit on these for too long. But what you're gonna wanna try to do is move your employees, move them closer to this midpoint, because market midpoint is the average of the market out there from a retention and recruitment standpoint. And with your budget, then you're right, we've gotta get our employees down in here, and it's gonna take some time to kind of move them off. You only have, two right here that are deputy marshals that are over the market midpoint of 55.8, whereas you've got the rest of the employee group that are below the midpoint. And so this gives you the ability to manage dollars as well as you can with the budget that you have to progress and start moving. Because I truly believe that if you've got turnover, it'll slow down your turnover in your positions as you get them closer to market, as well as you attract some of the key positions in some of those other communities that are off to the east towards San Antonio, as well as a few of the cities to the north of you. It will attract them into Bandera, even though you're smaller in size.
Comments, questions? Anything, Darcy?
I think, I'm gonna agree with, I think it was Jerry saying that I feel like most of this is pretty much useless. I do think that the analysis of present pay versus pay policy ranges on page 24, that's useful to me. I can work with that. I already started putting numbers together and stuff like that. I can work with that page, that's useful to me, but the rest of it, comparing other cities that are nowhere close, it's
I think
absolutely
24 is
useless to
really
me. Yeah.
All the rest of the packet got to us to 24, so.
Yeah, and I hate to keep hitting on the
We
cities,
did
but
update the job descriptions, and so I sent those, they're there too. And what we did is, those descriptions are based on your requirements there at the city.
What job? Okay, so we have new job descriptions?
Yes.
Guess I'll wanna look at those.
We just didn't put them in the packet. I
Probably need to
sent
approve
them,
them too,
Oh,
both the, I sent them to, city secretary and to, David. But I think your admin assistant has them too.
of course.
It was one of us.
Jerry?
yeah, I'd just like to mention these cities. These are not a threat to us. I mean, Burnett, Valverde, Hondo, yeah. But Blanco, Marble Falls, Garden Ridge, Helotes even, that's even stretching it. People are not gonna be leaving to go get a job in one of these cities, and if they are, their heart's not in Bandera to begin with.
Well, I think we've
Okay,
established
that's-
that part of this is not gonna be.
Totally
Not much use.
What's that?
I just think that statement's super subjective and, yeah, I don't think you know
Well,
what other
that's
people.
my right.
It's opinion.
My right.
Yeah, I know, it is.
Okay, any other questions or comments for Mr. Johansen? Okay, I appreciate all your hard work and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johansen, for the
You bet.
presentation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Okay.
you paid for that?
Item C, it's a proclamation of the city of Bandera recognizing community contributions to James Vervoordt.
You gonna read it, or do you
I'm
want
gonna
to
read it real quickly for you, just so we have it for anyone who might be listening in. This proclamation I will be presenting on Friday at the Big Texas Bash, Big Bash, Texas, what's the name?
Big Texas Bash.
Big Texas Bash, to James, as well as, I think there's a recognition by the governor and different other great things happening. Anyway, so, proclamation of the city of Bandera proclaiming James Michael McGroarty a living legend in Bandera, Texas. And you're gonna know his middle name by the time this is over with. Whereas James Michael McGroarty was born in the Texas Hill Country on April 5th, 1955 to parents Mary Ellen McGroarty and Patrick Pierce McGroarty. And whereas James Michael McGroarty learned entrepreneurship at an early age by the example of his family, whose interests spanned decades and included M. Boyle Mercantile, established in 1904, and interests in banking, real estate, and other commercial businesses. And whereas James Michael McGroarty went to school here in Bandera and was named to the all-district and regional football teams all 4 years. This is not the right one. All 4 years. Whereas in 1974, at 19, James Michael McGordy is the youngest person to ever obtain mixed beverage permit from the TABC and owned the iconic Purple Cow until 1978. And whereas also in 1974, James Michael McGordy achieved the dream of his young life by being hired into the oil field by Crutcher Resources and went to spend the next 20 years traveling the world from the North Sea to Arabia. And whereas after retiring in 2006, James Michael McGordy returned to Bandera to take some time off and give careful thought to what he would do in and for Bandera. And whereas after noting the decline of tourism and interest in the dude ranches in the area compared to his time spent as a young man in Bandera, an idea began to take shape. And whereas forming a partnership with life partner and now wife, Stella Tedesco, James Michael McGordy acquired the 11th Street Cowboy Bar and began a far-reaching task of expanding and creating a country western dance hall, and by bringing country music stars to Bandera and attract visitors from near and far. And whereas James Michael McGordy has enhanced the annual Mardi Gras parade that brings visitors from around the world and to Bandera for the biggest annual event in Bandera. And whereas James Michael McGordy, true to his roots and family values of hard work and sound work ethic, has attracted visitors from around the hill country, the United States, and the world to stay and play in Bandera. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the City Council of Bandera, Texas, I, Suzanne Shulman, Mayor of the City of Bandera, do hereby proclaim that the City Council of the City of Bandera recognize the visionary efforts of James Michael McGordy in increasing tourism, and do hereby proclaim that James Michael McGordy is henceforth named the living legend of the City of Bandera. Rebecca.
Move to approve.
Yeah. Took a while, but there it is. So that'll be presented to him on Friday, if he wants it. Okay, item 6.
Do you need a second and a vote?
It's
to
not,
approve that?
it's not
No,
on that
it's just
part
a
of it.
presentation.
Oh, I'm so sorry, y'all. My bad.
Yeah.
I withdraw my motion.
Thank you. All right, item 6, discussion and possible action on the following items. Discussion and possible action on approving a request from Kickback Corner Bar and Grill to close Cedar Street from the corner of 402 Main Street to approximately 100 feet to the entrance of Arky's parking lot, beginning 7 a.m. through 10 p.m. on Saturday, April 30th, 2022, for an Alcock Elementary benefit to include food plate sales and activities for children. Rebecca.
I would make a motion to approve the street closure as stated.
Jerry? Second.
I'd like to second that, please.
Discussion, council? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Okay, item B, discussion and possible action on a resolution amending the personnel policy regarding longevity pay. In your packets, we discussed longevity pay. I believe Jill has provided you with a breakdown somewhat of what it would cost every year.
Y'all asked for more information when David had put it on the last agenda, so basically what I did was just provided a spreadsheet for the date of the employees, if you went with a 3-year longevity or a 5-year, based on $5 and based on $6, because that seemed to be the range that the other cities that I had the backup for last time was. And then in this same thing is the COLA raise. So we went back to 2017 and did the Social Security Administration COLA adjustments. And so I just put the year and what they were and then did an average. So this is basically the same sheet. This, I added a few columns to it that y'all had requested. And that's that.
Jerry?
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to move that we approve the resolution amending the personnel policy regarding longevity pay based on 5 and 5. 5 years, $5.
5 years and $5 per year.
Correct.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Thank you, Rebecca. Might I add that this will not go into effect should council decide to make this change until the next budget year, so there's no consideration of that right here. Darcy?
I will say there were 2 reasons I didn't jump up in second. First reason it would be $5 per month, not per
That's
year.
what I was about to say,
And then
but I think it was
the second
Good catch.
reason would be that I would like to see that we also increase it to at least $7 per month at year 10. If not more, I would even be okay with more per month.
You know, I believe that the discussion we had before is let's make this move now and, or if council agrees to make the move, and address down the further 10 years in the future when we actually get closer to 10 years in the future, because we as a council can't really predict what is gonna be the economic state of the state of Bandera in 10 years. Rebecca?
And the only other suggestion I would make is that we work this into, since this isn't even gonna take effect till next budget year, I think we could have some more thorough dialogue during a budget workshop, and then at that point create the policy when we budget for it as well.
So we have a motion and a second on the table. Jerry?
I'm open to withdrawing my motion.
Does that
I would,
sound like what you guys would want to do too, is discuss
I
it
think
further?
ultimately, yes, but if we can still finish our discussion and then before we take a vote, give Jerry the opportunity to withdraw. And,
Sure.
or if we can continue discussion after he withdraws it, then, so, is it my floor?
whatever works.
Okay, so the 5.9 on the, under the COLA for 2021, was that 5.9 of our budget? Did we actually give 5.9?
No, you have not given COLA raises in 2 years. This is the national average.
Oh, national.
From the
average.
Social Security Administration.
Oh, there you go,
So
sorry,
Social
I
Security
missed that
Administration,
point, thank you.
the council, the last COLA raise that y'all gave was in 2018.
Yeah, and the reason I asked that, and I know that I've said this in the
May
past.
I?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was gonna finish.
We have two separate agenda items. One is for COLA, one is for longevity.
Okay,
Yeah, I
Okay,
just
we
put them
stick
on the
with
same
longevity.
spreadsheet.
Can we
That's what I
stick
was
with
saying. Sorry about
longevity?
that.
Let's
my bad.
bring that
Thank
to a
you.
conclusion and then we'll see where we're gonna go.
Very good.
Okay, back to longevity. So what we have on the table is $5 a year to begin at 5 months.
That's on the table, it's a year, yes.
Yeah.
Well,
That was the motion.
it actually wasn't. I'm
Didn't
just
do it
gonna,
right.
may I?
Yes.
Jerry identified the 5-year $5, which is $5 a month. Suzanne just restated it incorrectly and mistakenly used the word year. That wasn't the motion. But, yeah, that's all. Point
Okay.
of clarification.
So that would be the second column on the spreadsheet. If you wanted to see what you're looking at, it would be $27.60 as of right now per year.
Right. And then Darcy,
Money well spent.
your comment was to make it,
I like the $5 per month at the 5-year mark, and then I would be in favor for at $7 per month at year 10,
Yeah.
or even I would even honestly be good up to $10 per month at year 10, because that's somebody that's really dedicated to being here and has a lot of experience and knowledge that they could share with others. And I think again that
Theoretically.
it should, yeah, or they shouldn't be here. That's money well spent, because it comes back to us twofold.
Rebecca?
I completely agree. I just also think too, there's like policy to iron out around
Agreed.
all of this. So, I like that we're all, it feels like on board with doing this for the employees. Let's just make sure we get it hashed out before budget season so we can make it policy and budget for it.
And now that, should this motion pass, then we will then give this on to Dan to translate into how we're gonna, we've got to calculate from January 1, start from your prior year and all those things that we discussed earlier, and have that final version brought back to council before it's actually put into the policy. Yes, Tony?
So I'm in favor of withdrawing the motion now and having a very specific agenda item to all of us take a consensus on what aspect we're going to give to the lawyer. Discuss it in detail, like Rebecca said, have a policy and say, this is what we want, and then have all of our ducks in a row before we give it to Dan. I think it would be our money better spent. And so, and I'm, again, I think we are all for moving forward, and perhaps we can put this on a different agenda item for detail.
Well, Dan will be here next week. It might be a good opportunity to put this on the agenda for the creation of the policy in the employee manual. Well, that would be the time to give him the direction from council.
No, I don't think he needs to listen to us banter back and forth. I don't think we need to waste his time and pay him to listen to us make up our mind. I think we need to make up our mind and then say, here, send it in an email and say, this is what council has just wants the policy to read. And then, I think he gave us a lot of really good direction when he was here before. I think we just need to clarify it, agree, and move forward. And I don't think we need to, if we need to call him or something while we're doing that, that's one thing, but I don't.
He's not available tonight.
I agree.
No, I
Don't
meant
pay
not
the
tonight,
lawyer-
sorry.
Don't pay the lawyer to listen to us talk.
Well, that's
Yeah,
true.
I
We
agree.
do a lot of that
Yeah,
too,
we
don't we?
do. Yes, ma'am.
If I have just a consensus, then I can get with him, write the policy. He can make the preparation to the amendment to the personnel policy, as well as a resolution adopting the addition. Him and I already talked about it.
Great.
So y'all have a consensus of 5 years, $5. So that pretty much sounds like a consensus, but then the 10-year,
I think there's some other things that we can probably make it better,
yeah.
more sustainable. Doesn't it sound like it?
Rebecca?
And just, did you have some example, didn't you have some other cities' actual policies?
They were in
Maybe-
the last packet.
They were in the last packet, right. So in terms of how it's structured.
Right, so that's why I gave you the 3-year, $5, 6-year, $6. Some cities were higher, some were lower, and that was like the average of the cities that are in my network. So I'm part of the Hill Country group of secretaries. There's like 52 of us, I think. So in my network, in this area, those were the examples that I gave.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the table. Jerry,
Everybody through? I'd like to make a motion to withdraw my
motion?
prior motion.
Just to withdraw a motion doesn't require a second, right? It's just withdrawn.
You just have to concur.
Well, I concur in that case.
If I wish to withdraw my motion, we'll do it.
It wasn't my motion. Jerry withdrew
Yes,
his motion.
Yes, I know, but I'm just saying you don't need to, yes, Darcy.
Do we want to try to come to some sort of consensus on a 10-year mark so that she can get with Dan?
Well, we
While
haven't
we're
moved on,
still
sure,
on
we
the
haven't moved
agenda
on
item.
yet. 10 and 10 has been put on the table. How do y'all feel about 10 and 10?
I like 10 and 10.
5 at 5, 10 at 10.
I want to remind you, council, that we don't want to get in the same boat we found ourselves in with the Marshals Department, where there was a perpetual 2.5% a year for ad infinitum, and, until, let's just be careful how we word
It
this
can be
thing.
changed too. If we end up with, 25 employees at 10 years, hey, that's fantastic, but if it's
Right.
no longer affordable, we can say,
Rebecca?
Well, and again, with my suggestion earlier about bringing this to a budget workshop is we could really plug in those numbers and look at how they reflect in our budget. So the policy can be crafted with blanks in it, essentially, I think. And you can just make it 5 and 10, and then we'll fill in the blanks with the dollar amount per month. Does that make sense to you guys?
Tony?
It does, and I agree. The only comment I would make to what Darcy said was, it can be changed. Well, it can be changed if we know about it. And council changes constantly, and none of us knew about the Marshals thing until it got brought up. So, you can only do about what you know. And so I would rather make a good, strong policy that we're not sitting there going back and forth, that we're truly rewarding people for longevity. But at the same time, in order for this to work at a benefit for the citizens, our management structure and actual managers in management positions where they oversee things and they're not letting people ride out to their retirement when they aren't still pulling their weight, So not that I'm talking about any present company, no present employees. I'm merely talking about, we've seen it in the past. And so,
If it's in the personnel manual, that has to come before council, so once it's changed there, then it wouldn't, it would come to future councils for any changes.
right.
That's what
Just to
she's,
clarify
But
that.
if we don't know about, I mean, if future councils come along, unless they sit there and read the personnel policy and,
Right.
yeah.
Well, this is something that I think would come up in 10 years at budget time when
It's
the
every year
then
at
council
budget.
administrator goes, well, this is the year that we switched to,
Yeah, and this year budget was a real good example of all the information we got during budget time. You can't rely on that. That's just, I mean, I'm just saying it's a reality of the fact that we know what we know and we don't know what we don't know. So,
Rebecca?
Well, I want to just bring up that every year at budget season, Will has been very transparent about his increase and the purpose that it was for. So if you've ever been on council and you participated in budget, then you would have been aware of that. And I think that this is the same thing. It's a line item for longevity pay. So anyone paying attention in the budget process sees it right in
Should
front
know.
of them.
Should know.
as long as we're getting the correct information ahead of time.
And I was not taking a shot at Will's department, it's just that it came up and out of an ordinance from whenever.
right.
So,
And it's better suited for a personnel policy, not an ordinance.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Any further discussion on longevity pay? All right, then let's move down to the cost of living adjustment, discussion of possible action on a cost of living adjustment for employees. Darcy?
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make a motion that we provide a 6% COLA adjustment in light of the not having a COLA in the last 2 years.
Is this for the 22-23 budget season or for going to effect immediately? How do you want to handle this?
I would like to see it immediately because costs have risen.
But not retro.
No, not retro. Costs have risen for food, for fuel, for everything. And it's, yes, we pay decent wages for Bandera, but we have to get fuel here too, and it's, by God, expensive. And food, and without having a COLA raise in the last 2 years, I think that that's the least that we should do, because if you look at it, it's 3% for the last 2 years and nothing for now. Or you can break it down at 2% for 3 years. So I think 6% is the least we could do.
Council, I asked
Well,
Allison.
that was a motion.
Oh, that was the motion, I beg your
Yeah,
pardon.
we need a
That was
second.
motion and discussion, wasn't it?
Very long worded.
Do I have a second? For 6%? Do I have a second? No. Then that motion dies for lack of a second. Rebecca?
So, in terms of the cost of living adjustment, I can specifically remember previous councils during budget season taking issue with referring to a raise as a cost of living adjustment. So, when you say the city hasn't given a cost of living adjustment, and you said that since 2018, we called it something different. We called it merit raises. We budgeted for more money for merit raises. So we have increased pay over time, but we have people who didn't want to call it cost of living. So to me, a raise is a raise, period. And so I just wanted to point that out. And the other piece another reason I didn't second the motion was because I don't know where our budget stands right now. I don't know if we have the funding to fund that type of thing at the moment. This, for me too, I would want to consider this in the budget workshop, right, and alongside other benefits and other salary increases.
Comment to that, as I was going to say, I'll get you here in just a second. I asked Allison to print out our second quarter budget expenses versus revenue versus expenses report. There are some things that need to be adjusted, obvious things that need to be adjusted, and we will be discussing this on the April 19th meeting, and it'll be put in front of all of you for you to have a look at it. I would have it out to you today, but there are some glaring errors that need to be corrected. Jerry?
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
I move that we table this personnel policy, cost of living, actually, I'm sorry. Cost of living adjustment for during the budget process.
Okay, you second? Tony seconds. Discussion? Darcy?
I am not opposed to tabling it, but I don't wish to table it till the budget season. I'd like to see the numbers that are being prepared and make sure that they're accurate. But yeah, 5 months is a long time.
In reality, we're in budget.
I was just gonna say that.
The only reason
You're
that I don't have budget worksheets out to the department heads today is because of what I found in the year-to-date numbers. Because I cannot possibly ask a department head to work out a budget based on numbers that cannot possibly be correct. So that's what I'll be working on, that and bank statements for the rest of this week.
Well, I was just gonna say something similar. I don't want this, agenda item I don't want this to not be able to come before council, but budget season, budget workshop, we can have at any point, starting as soon as we're ready to have 4 meetings a month.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it soon.
Yeah.
It will be very soon,
It will.
folks. I will get on it as quickly as I
In
can
that
get some
case,
real
I'm
numbers.
fine with that.
Okay,
So
so we have a
you-
motion?
Sorry, the motion was, it was
table.
left open till budget,
Yeah,
day budget
because we
workshop, not a specific
Put it
date.
as the
Okay.
first budget workshop, or?
Just make it a budget workshop.
Okay.
I second that amendment.
Okay, so I've got a motion and a second discussion to table it till a budget workshop in the near future. All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Thank you. Okay, item D. Discussion of possible action on awarding the design/build of the playground project with the assistance of the Texas Parks and Wildlife Grant. Jill, we went out for RFQs.
Right, so, I put a couple emails in there for y'all because this is like a really, most of you know, we've been working on this for 2 years now. So this is just the next step in the process. What we need to do tonight is, move to award Langford Management and the playground project with Texas Parks and Wildlife.
Page
to
40
Design.
is what you're looking for.
Extra Play.
36, I thought.
So extra, I kind of wrote down, so you would know, but the page number cut off Extra Play. So it's a price to build. So it's not like they give us a quote, like it's gonna be this much money. It's a build out. So once we award the contract to Extra Play, who had the best results and has been the most proactive with the city, then they design build for what dollar amount we have, which is the $150,000.
So basically, there are two different motions on this particular item. One to award the administration and one to award the
You
construction.
can do it in separate motions or you can do it together is what they explained to me. So that's kind of why I put move to approve.
Okay.
So however you feel most comfortable.
Darcy, Tony,
Go ahead, Tony.
somebody.
I get to do motions all the time.
I'd like to move to approve Langford Management for the playground project and Extra Play as the contractor for the design and build of the playground project with the assistance of Texas Parks and Wildlife Grant.
Thank you.
I'll say.
Darcy, everybody wants to get in on this discussion.
I'm excited.
Rebecca?
So Extra Play
Mm-hmm.
is the playground equipment company.
Yes.
What's the look and feel of this playground? I mean, this makes me a little bit nervous going in without even seeing their examples of work or
Well,
what
it
this
came
is.
to council a year ago.
Okay.
I can send it out to you, but it's very naturey, greens and browns.
She's using keywords on me.
No, really
I'm
it
just
is.
kidding.
And it's two different, at the time when we, this was in 2020 when we first started this.
Yeah.
And so I do have some new examples are the same. Basically, it's a small area for the smaller kids up to like age 5, and then a bigger area for the bigger kids, up to something.
Yeah.
And then it's green and browns, and then a couple of little riders, and then picnic tables around. And it's under all those trees, so we don't need a canopy.
That's right.
So we'll save money on that, but I can resend it to y'all, but it has come to council, but I can resend it.
Okay.
And I remember it as being like flood proof or whatever, because I've been excited about this project. I would like to see them add a tree with Rebecca's name on it so she can go and hug it. So, it'd be awesome.
Okie dokie then. Tony?
One question. So the trees, so, like we don't need a canopy, but like there's nothing in those particular trees that's gonna, cause like hackberries have sap, really bad.
They did
sticky.
an environmental study to
On
see
them,
if there was
just-
anything, and nothing came back,
Excellent.
so
I didn't
we're
remember that
past
point.
that point,
I
yeah.
remember that point, okay.
And if I remember correctly, they only have to remove one tree to get this whole
One
thing
very
in there.
small tree that's right in the center of where, because it's almost like a circle of trees if you've been down there.
Right.
And
I just couldn't
there's
remember
one
what the
little one in the
canopy
middle
was.
that's kind of shaded anyway, so it's not really grown much over the last 2 years. I was just out there.
Jerry?
It's not made of wood, correct?
No,
It's a fabricated plastic type deal.
right,
Okay. Yeah, it should be easy to clean
yeah.
if you do get sap on it.
Further discussion? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Joe.
Item E, discussion of possible action on selecting an engineering firm for the American Rescue Plan Grant and allowing the mayor city administrator to negotiate a contract for engineering services. This is your American Rescue Plan, the ARP. We had 3 RFQs submitted. You'll see that Ardura scored 97, Jacob Martin scored 83, and Meta Engineering scored 83.3. Darcy?
I'd like to make a motion that,
Yes,
hello, that we select Adora as the engineering firm for the American Rescue Plan Grant and allow the mayor, city administrator to negotiate a contract for the engineering
Thank you.
services.
Jared?
I'd like to second that.
Okay, discussion. If this seems redundant, council, we've done a lot of these several times. When the ARP was first brought up to us, there were no clear guidelines, no protocols, no procedures. So we proceeded with the project without having done RFQs and appointed an engineer. We did appoint an administrator, but we did not appoint an engineer, and that's why it's coming to you now. Further discussion? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Item F, discussion and possible action on selecting an engineering firm for the Texas Water Development Board Clean Water State Revolving Fund Grant and allowing the mayor, city administrator to negotiate a contract for engineering services contingent upon receiving the funding. Clean Water Grant is the Texas Water Development Board grant for the wastewater plant. We've already secured the drinking water state revolving fund. This is going out for the TABC, Texas Water Development Board money to try to get this thing moving. You'll see in your packet the engineering for the wastewater treatment plant. There were 2 RFQs submitted. Ardura scored 99 points. Jacob Martin scored 78 points. Council? Darcy?
I'd like to make a motion that we select Adura as our engineering firm for the Texas Water Development Board Clean Water State Revolving Fund Grant and allow the mayor, city administrator to negotiate a contract for engineering services contingent upon receiving funding.
Rebecca?
A second.
Discussion?
I'm sorry. Adora's done a great job for us, so I don't hesitate even if they didn't score as high, I would still.
Well, Ardura
They've
and
done a
Langford,
great
as we've
job.
discussed previously, have brought us this far into this thing. After we're through with all these water projects, council can do whatever council pleases, but I think that it's a wise decision to stay with the folks that have been with us from the get-go on this stuff.
And they're very open, transparent, they're up for taking phone calls, and they've just been great.
Further discussion? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Item G, discussion of possible action on selecting administrative services for the Texas Water Development Board Clean Water State Revolving Fund Grant. Here we have only one RFQ submitted, and that was by Langford. They scored 100. Rebecca.
I have a question, and kind of a comment / question. Our previous city administrator, it felt like went to great lengths to get GrantWorks in front of us to give us a wonderful presentation. And if they seemed so interested to get in front of council and there was a RFQ out there, did they not get an invitation to
They got one.
They got one and they didn't submit.
Nobody submitted except for Langford.
And how was it publicized?
It was in the paper and it was emailed
To directly to?
We had to send it, I think, to at least 5. They upped
Okay.
it, the Texas Water Development Board upped it. So we
Okay.
have to email at least 5 and then show
Okay.
proof of the email, and it's a lengthy process with the
Sure.
Texas Water Development Board.
Well, I'll make a motion, if I may,
Yes, ma'am.
to approve Langford for administrative services for the Texas Water Development Board Clean Water State Revolving Fund Grant.
Thank you. Tony, you second. Further discussion? All in favor? All in favor, Tony? All in favor, none opposed. Okay, item H is discussion on hotel occupancy tax fund disbursement for 2022. In your packet, you have the Riding on Faith Rodeo, which was submitted by Karen Konvicka. Also, we have the Hui Rodeo, which is actually in the next budget year. I don't know how y'all want to attack that. But we also have the 22 Memorial Weekend Rodeo submitted by the Bandera Rodeo Association and the Labor Day. Also, at the 11th hour this afternoon, at just around 4 o'clock, we got an application from the BBA for Cowboys on Main. So these are things we have to consider. Council, if you would like to look through this and we just table this until I can give you an honest answer how much money is in the bank, how we need to proceed from there. It's for you to think through. That'll give us a chance to get the BBA application thrown in here. Rebecca?
Since we have this on our agenda, is anybody interested in discussing kind of like what our process is, maybe how we could improve our process, how we can consider all of the local events and distribute the funds fairly among them? Or because, we've done this different ways in the past, and sometimes it works out really well. I mean, it used to be we kind of got organized around, I feel like, the EDC promotional funds, where we would kind of coordinate, work together, at least attempt to, and see who everybody that was showing up and asking for help, and kind of compare what they were getting from other organizations. We had a lot of requirements associated with the application and reporting afterwards for reimbursement.
I still think those requirements are very important.
Yeah, I do as well. I'm not
Oh, okay.
saying
I
that
thought
they're
you
not. No. I'm not trying to say that we shouldn't do that. But what I am trying to say is, while these are great events and I'm all about supporting them. Wait, I have a copy. This is a
No, you've
duplicate.
got
Oh,
one
okay,
for
it's
the
two.
Hui.
Anyway, I just know there's a lot of other events, and I don't know if there's maybe an opportunity to coordinate and communicate differently or better to make sure we include everybody who needs something to help promote Bandera with the funding.
May I? I reached out to the Bandera Wranglers and to the Chamber and to Jana Lindig, because there was nothing in this office from any of them, and we were getting to that point where we're time to consider. We're halfway through our budget year now. We kind of see what's going on. The fact that we've eliminated any sort of deadline. I think if we just get word back out there again, you know, the chamber was gonna try to get something back to us. I haven't heard back from the Wranglers about the,
Bacon Bash.
ham rodeo. I don't know what other events you have in mind, yes.
Well, let's make a comprehensive list, or maybe there's one already. I'm thinking,
I bet there is.
and I wouldn't be prepared to make large awards right now without considering all of the events and again, what we have in the budget to award, but, you know, we don't, I guess I have this idea around, there's a certain number of events, let's divvy it out fairly and somehow proportionally to the size of the event, and they only get it when they bring the documentation that we require, and then we write them a check.
That's how
And
we've
we,
done it.
well,
That's how
no,
it's done.
we have them coming and pitching, and us like trying to cut their amounts, and there's a lot of subjective behavior around the process. There has been in the past, and I just wonder if there isn't a clear cut. Sorry.
A fair and equitable way
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Something like that.
Tony?
Although I agree with Rebecca, we've been talking about this we talked about it last year. We told everybody to have their applications in by September, October. We didn't do anything with it. Here we are in April, and these rodeos, we had her application in September, October. I mean, we're the ones that haven't put it on an agenda. I know she came and adjusted it. She sent in an updated thing, but this rodeo series has been going on this will be the 4th year. Every year it gets bigger. Every year it promotes who we are as a city. Every year it fills the seats in Mansfield. And this WHOI qualifier just keeps getting bigger and bigger too. So, I mean, this to me promotes who we are, and they've never asked for money before. And here we are in April, and they're about to start their rodeo series. And I think we need to consider them tonight, and then perhaps have a workshop for what we're going to do with everybody else, because they've waited patiently, and that they've proven themselves. Every single year it gets bigger.
Percy had her hand up first.
I'll say, talking to Karen, and this has been a while back, but she said that she has applied before, but they haven't been granted it before because it's been at Mansfield Park, which is considered outside the city limits, and so it hasn't been granted for that reason, and so I'll leave it at that. But she says she has applied multiple times, and that's why it hasn't been granted. But I don't think
I know
that's a fair way to look at it.
a thought she had, but I'm not sure if that's 100%.
Yeah, I understand. That's
If I'm not mistaken, we have granted them,
BDC has.
EDC.
I thought we did,
we have not.
didn't we?
okay, Jerry,
Or City, I thought we approved them.
I thought we did too, but
Not to argue, I'm just saying, I
I
thought we
can get a
did.
list of who we've approved in the
But
last year.
it's kind of irregardless. I don't know if we could even award that tonight if we wanted to. It's not on the agenda for action. So are we able to do that regardless?
No, just says discussion.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Unless it's
I
under
prepared
At least you have a
resolutions.
consensus now. I think everybody's,
Under number 6, and we've done this before, and we asked Dan about it too. Since on number 6 it says discussion and possible action, so we could,
at the top, yeah.
because we have talked to Dan about
Everything
that
under
before.
here is for
oh,
discussion.
well,
Yes, Jill.
I did talk to
I
Dan
remember
about
that
the
question
subject
coming up.
yesterday, and he recommended going forward, like always, that we do these things by resolution per event, so that they're an actual document, not just in the minutes of what was done. So I prepared resolutions. What he would prefer, if y'all would do anything tonight, is to approve it, and then it come back to approve the actual resolution with the resolution number for any event. so.
There's also an agreement in conjunction with this, which basically just lines out our policy that you do what you need to do, and then you bring us back the receipts and we'll reimburse you for your expenses.
That's the post-event report.
Rebecca?
So, I think what I would like to ask is that this come back to our very next meeting, and I'm just saying this for discussion right now prior to a motion to table, but that we could see the outline of the awards for the past, how many years? 5 years, 3, what you can, up to 5 years if you can get it. The agreement, the performance agreement document, and the accurate budget. And I would be ready to take action on it with all of that information.
Okay.
And I would say, I'd like to, I'll get with you, Pat, and see if you have a comprehensive list of events. But, I mean, I guess I could just go on your calendar and look at,
Yes.
and kind of know
Yes,
what's
we do.
annual events.
We
Can
try
you just
out-
change that into a motion to table?
Now I will. I'd like to, may I make a motion?
Yes, Rebecca.
I'd like to move to table this agenda item to our April 19th meeting.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Thank you, Darcy. Further discussion? All in favor?
Are you in favor?
Yes.
She seconded, I hope she is. All in favor, not opposed. This is tabled to April the 19th. Is anybody on here for the closed session?
No, it's the session for y'all, not for them.
Council, I will be emailing you an update. There is no news to report from these people.
Are we, so
No.
wait,
Hold on,
are you
hold
on item 7?
Mm-hmm.
She's
Closed
saying.
We need to go into
she's saying-
close,
We need
They're
to-
not-
Oh, I thought she was
you
saying
need to
there
let-
was no closed session, she's just saying there was no update.
well, I have a
There's no
packet for
update.
it.
No.
Okay,
That-
well, let's go into closed session.
Yes.
Do y'all want to go into it?
Can,
We're out.
Okay.
can I ask for a recess?
You want to
I
recess?
don't
Well,
take
Darcy took one.
Sure.
Okay, let's take a break till 8 o'clock. I'm recessing the regular meeting
See you later.
at 7:52.
Doesn't matter, I don't care.
I'm reconvening the open session of the City Council, City of Bandera. Item 8, action following closed session. After deliberation in closed session, the City Council will reconvene in open session to take any final action necessary for item discussed in closed session. Council? Tony?
I'd like to make a motion
Yes, ma'am.
to terminate our contract with Texas Land and Right of Way Company LLC.
Thank you.
I'd love to second that one.
Discussion?
I ask a question, would that motion include, well, I'm just trying to think of the words for, council had approved a certain expenditure. So terminate effective the expiration of the expenditure, or does that even not need to be stated?
I
would think
like
that's-
that. Yeah, I was gonna say, I'll make the amendment.
Would you amend it, please?
Well, wait a second, before I do that, but we pay all outstanding invoices up to the approved amount and terminate immediately? Is that, I mean,
Up
is
to
that
the
approved
You can
amount?
state the 60,000 maybe.
I don't know for sure what it was.
Council
I mean, I
would say the
think
approved
we're
amount.
right, but,
It was 60,000. I
Okay.
could confirm that. I just don't have the minutes in front of me to.
okay.
We
I just
looked at
thought I thought we all thought it was 60, but we didn't know for sure it was
I
60.
remember.
Well, we have the original contract for
But I
Okay.
usually don't
But now,
remember.
The contracted amount.
make your, go ahead and we'll motion and second and all that good stuff.
Okay, so I'd like to make an amendment to my
Yes, ma'am.
motion to terminate our contract with Texas Land and Right of Way Company LLC, pay up to the approved expenditure amount of $60,000 and terminate immediately.
Jerry, second.
I'd like to second that.
Discussion. The only thing I want to say is I hate having this city to have outstanding obligations hanging like that 14,000, whatever it is. I understand where everybody's coming from. They've exceeded the amount of the contract. Let's just move forward. I'll send them notice tomorrow of the council's decision, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah, I would,
Well-
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, no.
Go ahead.
I would say that if they wanna come back and like, justify, that expenditure, that it actually fell within what we contracted them for. Because I do know that we had a question in the last meeting, David's last meeting, was that we felt as though they hadn't taken action until like the day before our meeting. And we hadn't discussed this for quite some time. And so, if they weren't treating us seriously and acting on, taking action on on negotiations on our behalf, and they were at the meeting where they came to us and said, we've exhausted our 30,000, can you give us more? And we
We
believed,
did a job.
well, we believed in what they had
Trust.
done up until that point.
Right.
And we gave them leads, and this actually is one of the leads we gave them.
That's correct.
So I don't think that, I don't think, they knew what the cap amount was. And if they needed more, then they should have come before that and asked for us to extend it.
I agree.
And I don't consider that an outstanding debt.
No, I just,
But I hear what you're saying. They call it an outstanding debt, but we were clear and they were at the meeting. So I don't consider that an outstanding debt.
Amen.
further discussion? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Okay, item 9, requested announcements. Item A, request by council to place items on an agenda. I am going to throw the finances out there. We'll deal with that on the 19th. That's when we normally do our department reports anyway, the second meeting of the month. Tony?
Okay, so there are several policy changes, personnel policy changes, longevity, COLA, HRA, and possibly some other ones that are not within budget. So I would like to have a workshop or an agenda item for a workshop for personnel policy changes. I'd like a workshop for animal control ordinance updates and process. And then also a closed session for land opportunities.
For what?
Closed session for land opportunities. Those are the notes that I had so far. Oh, and hot funds. Hot funds. Okay.
Sure.
For future agenda, I would like to see us discuss, I'd like us to discuss potential health inspections, state health inspections for food service establishments.
Fine, I'll just throw this out there. I get inspected every 6 months, and I give a copy of it to the code enforcement officer. What else?
Yeah, I see them posted.
I don't know really how I would word this. I've had several calls lately from different people totally unassociated with one another regarding permitting process, how they're treated when they call up here. Just different things around the whole how it goes down. You need a permit, they start the work, no you don't. Sorry, I don't want to get into it anymore. It's a muck. It's a muck, and it should not be a muck.
I've had calls about this.
So what are you wanting to discuss?
Permitting process.
Permitting process.
Can we
Maybe include
Policy and procedures on permitting?
Yeah, but I would almost go to so far as to say phone etiquette and customer
I've had
treatment.
complaints too.
Can we just
Well, I
throw
think that doesn't really come under
council?
council's purview, but.
Okay, well then leave that off. But
Can
I
we-
would like to just do permitting process. Sorry, Tony.
Can we kind of add code enforcement, how that falls into the permitting, like have those lumped together?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I've had lots of calls that I've mentioned previously that we haven't put on the agenda, so
That sounds like a workshop.
it does.
I need all these workshops.
It's just.
Got a lot to
Hurry
do.
up and get them out of the way before
I'll
the
get rid of
budget
that.
Crazy.
process.
Yeah,
Whatever, we
Because,
have 2 a week once we get the budget rolling.
2 a week.
yeah,
Okay, is that it?
Is that it for future?
Because I've already got other stuff on there too.
Well, not everything has to be on the very next agenda.
Right.
We're gonna have a pretty big agenda as it is.
And I think we mentioned the budget one specifically for April 19th, but the rest of them can get pushed, right? That was in the motions.
Okay, announcements?
can I question you?
Me?
On that land acquisition, is that kind of like everything we talked about? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
You done with future agenda requests, announcements?
Watch out for bicycles on Sunday.
In 5 days.
I'm not real filled. Jerry?
Announcements
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
I second.
Absolutely. Second? Everybody?
Yes.
All in favor?
Yes.
June
Any
8:35.
discussion stuff?